This is Lewis Hart for Boxing Social in association with Empire Fight Style and William Hill. Delighted today to be joined with the WBO Cruiserweight World Champion, Chris Billam-Smith. First of all, how does that sort of sound? I know it's been a couple of months now, but how does that sound to be, the Cruiserweight World Champion?
Yeah, sounds good, mate. Sounds good to me. Obviously, still a bit weird hearing it, but no, it's getting used to it.
Definitely. How do you sort of reflect on that night now? You've had a lot of you had a bit of time off, had a bit of sort of time to enjoy it. So you went on holiday. Sort of how was that time since becoming a world champion now? How was sort of to sort of chill?
Yeah, yeah. It was a bit mad at first. Then it was all a bit of a rush in terms of the next day. I went straight on holidays with very little sleep. So, and then I went straight from that holiday to a stag do. So it was all a bit mental. But yeah, it was. It's good now to settle down, and I've watched the fight back a couple of times more recently as well. Just what I could have, sort of analysing it rather than just watching it. So yeah, it's a phenomenal night, phenomenal memories, and it's just, for me now, it's just about pushing on, and it's a great memory, but could talk about it and watch it and enjoy it, but I'm very much back in the mode of being driven and about what's next.
Was you stealing a lot of the shine on the stag do then, becoming like the new world champion?
No, my mates wouldn't they wouldn't allow me to do that. That's for sure. So no, wasn't really recognised much in Barcelona. So it was nice to be able to celebrate with all the lads though, because they're all my close friends, and it's I didn't get a chance to celebrate with them on the night because I was at the stadium till 2:30. And then by then, they'd all got home and stuff by the time I had a chance to have gone out. So yeah, it was nice to be able to properly, celebrate with them and spend a good weekend with them.
Definitely. When you look back on it now, for someone like you, who's it's been sort of hard road. It's been a hard road for you, sort of from the small hall to work your way up to the position that you're in now. Is it a pinch yourself moment in a way to think that you got the WBO strap?
Yeah, in a way, yeah, for sure. I wasn't expected to reach this level. I knew I was always capable of doing it. I just needed the right fights at the right time and the right team around me. And thankfully, I've got all those things, and as well as the support of the town, which has been huge for me to be able to put massive nights on in Bournemouth over the last year, the last 3 fights. Obviously culminating in the world title fight. So at the stadium. So I've had a lot of things going my way in terms of the support the team have had around me, and I've been given every opportunity. And I like to think now that I've repaid all the support over the years. Everyone who's helped me and supported me by getting to the top of the division.
Definitely. One thing I wanted to say, and I think George Groves mentioned it a couple of weeks ago, literally just after your fight, and he talked about post-fight what you sort of done and how special it was where you just chilled with everyone. And he said it was sort of something similar to what he done when he became a world champion, doing that in your hometown, and actually when you got the world champion, you've achieved your lifelong dream, and spending it with the people that mean the most to you straight away after the fight, with your family, friends. Was that sort of a special feeling?
Yeah. Like I made sure the changing room after a fight, but I asked them all to take it easy on the drink and not get drunk, and then they can all come in the change room with me after. So that was a really nice feeling, a really special moment for us as a family. I think for everyone to be there, my mum and my dad, my brothers, to all be there. The team, obviously, Luke Campbell, George Groves, people who I've spent years in the gym with, who I've looked up to since I was an amateur. To have them there with me and the current crop of the people in the gym and stuff. So along with my wife. So yeah, it was a special moment, and then went back to the hotel. That was just with the team. My wife had to go home to relieved the babysitter by the time the babysitter was working till 2 a.m. and by that time I still wasn't out the stadium, so she had to go back and relieve the babysitter, and I just went back to my room with Shane, George, Jake, McGuigan, their partners, and a couple of others, and yeah, just chilled, sat and ate pizza, and yeah, bit of a surreal thing. It felt very normal, but was very. There was a buzz in the air, but everyone was also knackered, and it was very chilled.
Definitely. How did you look back on that fight week as a whole? From the workout to the press conference to the weigh-in, everything about it was sort of all about you. And you brought sort of so many South Coast fighters with you. For me, who was there fight week, I covered the whole fight week. And I'm not just saying this to you, but it was one of my favorites. Everything about it was sort of perfect, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, from a aesthetic point of view and the way it looked and everything. Yeah, I mean, I felt
Oh, of
terrible fight
course,
week
yeah,
because
yeah.
I was ill, but
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, sorry.
yeah, but so on the Wednesday, the workout was hard because I had to really put on a brave face. I felt awful in the ring, but I had to sort of go over and above to show that I was all right. I remember getting interviewed by Sky Sports on the little stage they had set up on the pier there, and I stepped back and I almost stepped off the back of it, and I was sort of swaying as people were talking to me. But look, by Thursday I felt a bit better at the press conference, and then I started feeling a bit better. I couldn't really stomach much food even after the weigh-in. I think I only had about 3 meals from the weigh-in to the fight. And I didn't eat, anything from Thursday breakfast. I think apart from maybe a rice cracker or two. So yeah, it wasn't the best in that sense.
Yeah,
But when you look at the workout and the presser with the weather and where it was, the setting, everything like that, yeah, phenomenal. And it's amazing for me to have that, and obviously in my hometown. I mean, I was there. Was it last September? No, September before last. I was on that pier at one of my mates' weddings. And on, so it was a bit of a different experience, but it's amazing. So it felt very homely. And yeah, it's just a really good fight week. Obviously, bar being sick, really.
yeah. I completely forgot about that actually. When I mentioned it there, I completely forgot about the illness. That must have been sort of a difficult thing to get over, especially on such a big fight week where it's like the worst time for it to happen.
Yeah, but you don't have a choice. Look, the fight's going to happen. I'm not letting 15,000 fans down. I'm not missing this opportunity for a world title. So that's my mindset. I was like, it doesn't matter what happens on fight night. I'm having no excuses in terms of, I kind of got an excuse to why I was a bit flat in my performance, and I couldn't really do as much work as I would have liked because I felt like I couldn't go through the gears, but I didn't have to because I knew I was in control of the fight and the way the fight was going. But if I'd had to, then it may have been different. But I was able to control it, and yeah, I mean, going into the fight night, it's just you're in a different mind. I think a lot of fighters will be the same, and it doesn't matter what's gone on. You just get on with it. And I think that's just how it's got to be. It's the only opportunity I was ever going to get to win a world title at the stadium. If I pulled out, I probably would never got that opportunity again. So
Yeah,
for me, there was never any, I was never pulling out. I knew I was going to fight, and I just said to myself, worst comes to worst, we get in the change room and I feel terrible in the warm up. I just won't warm up, and I'll just give it everything and empty the tank for 40 minutes and
yeah,
36 minutes and just give it everything and see how it goes. But yeah, obviously, thankfully, it played out all right. I felt a little bit better. I felt, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, a little bit low on energy because I couldn't really refuel as well as I would like to, or put on as much weight as I would have liked to. But um, that's all doesn't matter now. It's all irrelevant now because we got the win.
definitely, 100%. And when you got the win, after winning the world title, Shane obviously came out and said he was saying that it was his proudest moment and his biggest achievement for someone like that who's trained so many fighters. Groves, Hay, the Josh Taylor, the list goes on and on. For him to say that, and everyone knows sort of you two come together. Do you know what I mean? The link up between you two it's a special link up between a trainer and a fighter. So to hear him come out and say that, when you think about how experienced he's been in a short time, how special was to hear that for you, for him to say that?
Yeah, it's really special, and I think he's right. I came to Shane as I was an international, amateur, like a lot of the lads are, like Josh Taylor and Frampton, and the likes of George Groves and David Hay and Luke Campbell. All those people have experienced before they came to Shane and done well. And he still improved them. But I think from the bottom to the top,
Yeah,
it's a huge achievement, and I owe the McGuigans so much, and they've been as much as the credit goes to me needs to go to them as well, because they've managed my career superbly, and I've put in the work, but they've given me the platform and the training and everything to go out there and do my job. So it was the perfect match. I don't think any other trainer would have been able to get as much out of me as Shane has already and continues to do. So yeah, it's nice to hear that from Shane, and we've got a brilliant friendship, and the long may it continue.
moving on. Not going into too far into forward yet, but one thing I wanted to ask you, as a person in yourself, how do you how do you carry on? I'm not saying you to retire, but how do you carry on after this, winning the world title at Bournemouth? Such a dream for you. What keeps you motivated to keep going and keep on going after this?
But if I was to, for example, if we were to have if the rematch happens, and if I was to lose the rematch, no, as much as I've got that night, there's not a legacy there. There's nothing like that. And I'm not talking about a legacy like a Hall of Fame or anything like that. I'm talking about in my own head. There's that one night that a lot of people remember. But other than that, where's the substance to the career? Yeah, I've got some good wins, but you need to keep winning. It's very easily forgotten in this sport.
Mhm.
You need huge nights. If Tony Bellew had retired after the Maccabi win at Goodison, he wouldn't have been remembered. He's remembered for
Yeah,
the David Hay fights, the big fights, the things like that. And for me, that's what it's about, because the more you remember, the more opportunities you get post career as well. Whereas if I was to retire now, then it's back. The money's I haven't earned the money you you want to earn, and you're able to go out and do stuff. You still need the paydays and stuff. You want to earn good money so you can go and do the next thing and build on it. And then the bigger your name, the more people you can help along the way, whether that's boxers, whether that's charities, whatever it is. So yeah, it's about building myself so I can do more with my brand. As a boxer, you're always your own personal brand. So um, for me, that's the key, and that's what motivates me, is just keep going and keep improving. The fight itself wasn't it wasn't a spectacle in terms of the actual fight.
yeah,
Watching it back's not easy. So
yeah, yeah,
it would have been different maybe if we got to the ninth, 10th round and I'd knocked Lawrence out, and that was that. But it is still like hard watch, and it wasn't. I'm not. I liked being in good fights, and I have been, and I'm an entertaining fighter, and that's what I want to be. I want to be remembered for fighting everyone, obviously being good and winning, but also being in good, entertaining fights and putting everything on the line. And I think that's not done yet. My career's not done. It can't be defined by this night. It might be later on, but I still don't think that. I think there's huge fights out there, bigger fights out there, and bigger nights out there for me, and that's what motivates me and drives me.
definitely. We'll go on to sort of the future. You just mentioned there about a rematch. Do you know anything sort of happening? As Okolie activated a rematch clause? Has he not? Is there a deadline on this? What's the sort of story there?
Yeah, he activated it. The deadline was up, but would have been up by now. But he activated the rematch clause, I believe. So I've left it with my team. As far as I'm concerned, he's activated it, and they're working. To be honest, I don't really know until something. I tell them not to tell me too much. They keep me updated with little bits and pieces here and there, but I'm not really interested until it comes to signing a contract or we've got, dates in stone and stuff like that. I'm back in the gym now, training anyway, so I'm there if anything else unfolds. If Shane gets a phone call from his brother Jake, or anything like that, I'm there and training. So, um, yeah, it's I'm back up, been back up ticking over for the last few weeks. 3 days a week up in London, back home for a few days now. But yeah, it's if that's what's next, which I always thought it would be. I know Lawrence messaged me the next day after the fight saying like congratulations and everything, like blah blah. And I said, yeah, sort of likewise, thank you for the opportunity, and I'm sure I'll be seeing you soon, sort of thing. So yeah, so that's always been in my mind that before the fight that I've got to beat Lawrence twice in the next sort of 6 to 8 months, or 6 months, should I say, before the end of the year, and then yeah, and then that's always been my mindset. So that's the focus at the moment. If anything changes, then I'll be ready for it.
Do you feel like you have scored to settle for this rematch in a way where the first fight you said it was sort of a tough watch, but not really down to your own fault. Okolie had 3 points sort of deducted, very lucky to not to be disqualified. Do you feel like you want to settle this score after sort of being disappointed in that first fight?
It's not about that. It's just, I mean, the good thing for me is like I can settle the score because I can go into the second fight, touch wood, be 100% for the second fight,
Yeah, of
where I
course.
was a lot flatter for the first fight. So I know that I'll make it more entertaining. It'll give me more energy, give me more. I think for Lawrence, he's got to really change because of the way he boxed in that fight. There was, like you said, he could have been disqualified. Obviously, I'm very, very glad he wasn't, because you don't want to
Yeah,
win a world title by
100%.
disqualification. But yeah, it's part of the business. It's a voluntary defense, against a Brit where it's an old stablemate, so he's going to get a rematch clause put in. I understood that when I signed the fight, but we signed the fight knowing that I'm going to have to beat him twice and that I can beat him twice. So that's, for me, it's just it's not necessarily a score to settle or anything like that. It's just a business, and that's part of it. I think it helps me having another camp for Lawrence. I'll be better. If you look at the Tommy McCarthy rematch, I made a few adaptations and was much more motivated,
Of course,
even more so
100%.
for the second fight. So that's sort of how I look at it.
Definitely. And how long do you think? It's a hard, really question to ask, but how long do you look at staying for cruiserweight for? Because I know you mentioned heavyweight before, and being the WBO champion, that could make you mandatory for heavyweight. So, how often have you got heavyweight in your eyes?
No, look, I haven't got. I think I did that interview with Sky Sports. I think they mentioned it, but it was I think it got lost in the headline. To
Oh,
be
okay,
honest, it was a bit of
yeah,
a tongue-in-cheek comment, that if I got made, I think you have to be a WBO gold champion, which I'm
yeah.
not
Oh,
sure how
okay,
many defenses that is to be, move up and
yeah, yeah, of
become
course.
a mandatory. Um, so yeah, I think there's a bit of a tongue-in-cheek comment. Look, I don't envisage heavyweight at the moment, but look, never say never. There's people up there, even Usyk's a cruiserweight up at heavyweight. Yes, he's obviously a decent sized heavyweight, but I think we're the same height, and stuff like that. But look, I've got business to do at cruiserweight first, um, before I think about moving up. I've got a lot of improving to do as a fighter, and I think that's the key for me, is just keep improving as a fighter, clean up as much as you can at cruiserweight, and then if the opportunity arises at heavyweight, then so be it.
You talked about unfinished business there. Well, last one from me. We see that obviously Riakporhe is mandatory for Opetaia, a fight that I'm sure that you'll be definitely keeping your eyes on. I know you'll have a Okolie rematch to deal with, but are you sort of keeping one eye on that as well, especially
Yeah,
with
for
the
sure.
unfinished
Look,
business with Riakporhe?
yeah, I hope it gets made. Obviously, Opetaia just signed with Matchroom, so I feel like that's thrown a bit of a spanner in the works. But I think, yeah, I think that's a really interesting fight. ideally for me, obviously, I'd want Richard to win that. But either way, if Richard's fighting Opetaia, it gets Opetaia's name out over here, and if he wins, it becomes a bigger fight between me and him than if I was to be the first Brit to fight him, for example. But yeah, it's an interesting fight. It's what we don't really know what Opetaia is like in terms like now, because he's had a long layoff. He's had managerial issues. He's had, disputes. He's got arrested, I think, at one stage when he was out, drunk. So what's his lifestyle been like outside of that? Richard's always in shape. Richard's always improving. And he can bang. So I think if you look at form, their last fights, then you'd pick Opetaia. But there's a lot of factors that come into play in terms of mentality when, Opetaia's become sort of, he beat the man of the division when he beat Proudest. So maybe that's gone to his head, sort of, and it happens. It happened with Teofimo Lopez when he beat Lomachenko. He took his eye off the ball, and Kambosos beat him. So it happens a lot in the sport, but you just really don't know how that fight's going to go. For me, it's a hard one to call, but I'll be rooting for Richard. For me, I hope he beats him, and then we can fight and have that rematch for the unification, and that makes it a huge fight, and one obviously I'd be licking my lips for.
100%. Chris, just wanted to say thank you for taking the time to speak to me. I really appreciate you taking it out, and yeah, it means a lot. I appreciate you chatting to me, mate, and all the best for the future.
Nice one. Thanks for your time as well. Cheers, mate.
Thanks, mate. Cheers, mate. Thanks for that.